Stu, what is going on with the Rand Paul thing?
It's a weird freaking story.
This is
man.
weird.
I don't know. I mean, I get that sense, and I think maybe it's this other doctor who I'm putting into this role, but it's almost how I felt at the first couple of hours after Tiger Woods crashed his car at the end of the driveway. We were all like, how do you crash a car at the end of the driveway? What's going on with that story? And it was kind of just nothing big. And then it sort of started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and stranger and stranger and stranger as it unfolded. And I'm certainly not accusing Rand Paul of anything like that. Maybe it's the other doctor has some weird thing going on in his life. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so do I have this right? Because when I first heard this story, he was attacked mowing the lawn and got the wind knocked out of him. No injuries.
Yeah, he was fine.
Yeah, he was fine. It was no big deal. Mm-hmm. Then I heard that he had some bruised ribs. Then I heard that he had 5 broken ribs.
Mm-hmm. Then it was bruised lungs.
Then it was 5 broken ribs, bruised lungs, a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah. Now it is 5 broken ribs, 3 teeth that were knocked out, and they thought for a while he had broken his jaw. He may have broken his jaw. They don't know. Now, what the hell is...
It's so weird, and he may not be back in the Senate for a while. And again, like, this is minor when you're talking about an assault, obviously. But, I mean, is he going to be there to vote on tax reform? Is he going to be... I mean, who knows?
And he was charged with 4th-degree assault. I don't know, 5 crack ribs. What do you have to do to graduate to 3rd?
All of the ribs?
What is it? Seriously, 4th-degree assault?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because it's also peculiar, not only because of the way this guy is reacting, the other doctor that lives next door to Rand Paul, because he's saying, "Oh, it's no big deal. We've had an argument about."
Here it is. The unfortunate occurrence of November 3rd has absolutely nothing to do with either's politics or political agendas. It was just a very regrettable dispute between 2 neighbors over a matter of what most people would regard as trivial. We sincerely hope that Senator Paul is doing well and these 2 gentlemen can get back to being neighbors as quickly as possible.
Gentleman is the right word. And now there's a motivation there that makes sense. If this doctor, who is a hardcore leftist, Occupy Democrats type of guy,
yes,
if he attacked Rand Paul because he didn't like Trump and he didn't like what Rand Paul was doing in the Senate, it is a federal crime. So it is in his interest to say, oh, it was just about grass clippings. Now, they've been showing the houses on TV. They're really far away from each other. It's hard to imagine why they would care about someone else mowing their lawn and grass clippings blowing, I guess, across the property lines.
Come on.
It doesn't seem plausible, but okay. I mean, those things.
But again,
you've had crazy disagreements with your neighbors before.
Yes.
And you've handled them in crazy ways.
No, I did. What are you talking about?
No, it's just odd that in Connecticut there would be a bamboo sprout.
I don't know what you're even...
It
was weird. Okay, all right. Now listen, this was... If you were a longtime listener of my program, you know that there was a time that I had a dispute with my neighbor because they didn't like a stone wall that I was building around my house. Mm-hmm. Everyone on my street had a stone wall.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
And they didn't want you to have
And
one.
I needed one.
Even though you own the property.
And they hated me. Mm-hmm. And, they hated me because I was, first, we had kind of a woods between us. They lived on the other side of the block, and we had woods where I owned like 2 acres, and they owned 2 acres of this wood in the back. And you're
actually more irrational than the Rand Paul story. I want to make sure this is understood by the audience.
So I cut down some trees that were dead, and the only time I ever spoke to this neighbor is I didn't. My wife did. She knocked on the door. It's right after we first moved in, and she said, "We don't like what's going on here." That's what she said when my wife opened the door.
That's a nice way to open up a conversation.
And my wife said, I'm sorry, pardon me? She said, I am your neighbor behind, and we do not like what's going on. And she said, again, I'm sorry, what's going on? She said, you are cutting down trees. And she said, oh, no, we're just cutting down the dead trees. She said, well, I don't know where you're from, but here, we like nature to take care of itself. And she said, my wife said, well, on our side of the property, we like to help it along.
You should have tackled her on her lawnmower.
Yeah. We closed the door. So then she started, they started with the fence and everything else. And somehow or another, and I don't know how, but somehow or another, bamboo found itself there right in the middle of the property line. It started on my side, apparently. But once you get bamboo growing, it just doesn't stop.
So not a good thing for them or for you.
Or for me. I wasn't happy about bamboo. Who wants bamboo? You know what bamboo does?
No,
bamboo
what does it do?
Spreads like crazy, grows and grows and grows, and eventually that whole wooded area, nothing but bamboo.
Really?
It's crazy.
That's terrible news.
It's terrible news.
So,
don't know how that happened.
Separate from that conversation, it's not exactly nuts to say that grass clippings could cause an assault. Like, it's not exactly nuts.
If you don't know where you can buy bamboo.
It's probably.
Just saying.
You're on the air, right? I just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, what? Some of the names and the story details, of course, have been changed.
Well, it's
a show.
It's entertainment product,
this
really.
This is a show. And don't think past that. This is a show.
Isn't it weird, though, that we haven't seen more from Rand Paul as far as going after this guy a little bit or being, maybe he's just trying to protect, I don't want to get in another fight with my neighbor, but it's like, if this guy is a hardcore leftist that is coming out and attacking you potentially because of your politics, this is something we should probably know about.
Senior advisor to Paul said Senator Paul has 5 rib fractures, 3 displaced fractures. This type of injury is caused by high-velocity severe force. It's not clear exactly how soon it will be before he returns to work, as the pain is considerable, and as is the difficulty in getting around, including flying. He said the senator's type of injury could lead to life-threatening injuries.
The only thing I can come up with, and again, I'm reaching here.
They're in the Fight Club?
No. There was an altercation, and, it's possible the fall goes worse than intended. You know what I mean? Like you're in a pushing battle, right? Like, I'm just trying to come up with a scenario. You push someone and they take a step back and trip and fall off a cliff, right? Like,
I don't know if they were in Acme land.
Right. That's why I'm making it a cartoon, but you didn't necessarily mean to push them off the cliff.
I fell down a flight of stairs once. Okay. Do you remember this? I had in my basement, I had a full flight of stairs, hardwood stairs. Started to fall on the first step, rode my back and my rib cage all the way down to the bottom. I bruised my ribs.
It's not helping.
5 ribs. That is excessive.
If you remember the documentary Naked Gun, there was a scene at the very end where Nordberg was in his wheelchair, just recovered from terrible injuries that he had in an investigation that he had gone with police squad. And he was sitting at the top. At that time, the California Angels Stadium, and Sergeant Frank Drebin, of course, patted him on the back to say, "Hey, welcome back." Unfortunately, that caused Nordberg's wheelchair to go down the stairs and caused him to flip over the edge of the balcony in the upper deck.
What happened to him?
He actually wound up murdering his wife and another guy. It was terrible.
Wait a minute. I think
it's a terrible tragedy outside of a restaurant. But that's a long story.
Wow, okay. That took a turn that I didn't expect.
Oh, my gosh. So this was more than being tackled.
We were just talking about this, Pat. It's gone from he had the wind knocked out of him to yesterday 5 ribs. Now it's 5 ribs, 3 displaced fractures, possibly a broken jaw, and 3 teeth knocked out.
Good heavens.
What happened?
Something weird.
That's really weird.
Yeah, this is not.
That's a brutal attack. That's an assault that the guy should be. That's like felony style, right? Didn't they charge him with a misdemeanor?
Fourth degree assault. Wow. What do you have to do in Kentucky to be first degree?
People in Kentucky are just tough, apparently.
Wow. Now, there is a possibility that they were fighting over who really owns the still in the backyard.
Well, it is Kentucky.
It is Kentucky. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hatfields and McCoys, they were from Kentucky, were they not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't really know either.
Is he pissed about the GOP tax bill? Did that set him off?
I think that is it. I mean, he's a hardcore leftist.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And the idea that now it's all about grass clippings seems to be this guy's attempt to avoid federal crime, because if it's about politics, it's a federal crime. So you can't just assault a senator.
Did he say it was grass clippings?
That's the rumor. It's been a long-standing
feud
battle.
about what he does
Don't
with
beat the hell out of somebody over grass clippings. I don't believe that.
Now, let me ask you this.
Come on.
How would you think about the morals and ethics of planting bamboo on a property
I don't
line?
know where you got this story.
I
don't know this story.
I'm not talking about Glenn. Why are you being defensive?
I don't know where he's getting
this. This is a general moral and ethics question. If you have a dispute with a neighbor and they don't like the way that you're doing things with let's say your dead trees in your backyard,
okay,
and they make a comment to you, hey, you know what? We would like to have nature take its course. So then maybe you would then plant some bamboo that spreads really quickly.
Don't know anybody who did that.
And let nature take its course on their property.
I don't know anybody who did that.
How would you feel about the morals and ethics of that?
I don't know
it
anybody.
Seems a little
that
petty to me.
Petty?
It seems, yeah.
What? It would be nature taking its course. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yes,
here.
I know. I can tell.
It's just
really
letting nature take its course.
Did nature plant the bamboo? Or how did that work?
Could have. I don't know anybody.
Is it indigenous to Connecticut?
It is in
I'm
that
just wondering.
area now.
Is it?
And you'll never, ever be able to get rid of it. Oh, that's the bad thing about bamboo. Once it starts to grow, it just doesn't ever stop.
And you expect that in Thailand, but I don't know if you expect that in New Canaan, Connecticut.
No.
I'm sure it was a surprise.
And where'd these panda bears come from? What the hell's going on here?
Oh, well.
I noticed last night on the TV show that you talked a lot about the thoughts and prayers mocking.
Yes.
I think this is the fulfillment of one of the things you said, that they're just going to lay themselves bare.
Yes.
And they're just going to come out and say it, and that's what they're doing now. They're just openly hostile to people of faith now. And I found it kind of interesting, the number of people and the kind of people that are doing this. Of course, there's news people, but you've also got the Working Families Party, so communists. Obviously, communists are going to be usually atheists. You've got Keith Olbermann, who's a socialist, Chelsea Handler, who's just despicable. Will Wheaton from Star Trek.
I always hated him. I wanted him sucked out of an airlock
Wesley
when he
from
was Wesley.
Star Trek.
I wanted him. He was obnoxious. He should have been sucked out of an airlock.
Instead, he transformed into a higher being. That certainly didn't happen to him in real life. What a miserable piece of crap he's turned out to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that with love, of course, for all pieces of crap.
He apologized.
Did he say he's sorry?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, good.
He did.
Okay, well, that's
Sort
big
of.
him.
He apologized. He's like, I'm not talking about people with real faith. I'm talking about Paul Ryan, was essentially his apology.
Oh, okay.
Which is,
that's not a real
still
apology.
pretty weak.
But, the Hollywood mocking, I love, and some people have noticed that they were taking time out of their busy schedule, raping each other to mock and lecture us on God, which I appreciate that a great deal.
It means a lot coming from them.
Doesn't it, though?